Okay, let's look at our very last chapter for this course. I think you'll find this one pretty easy too. It may seem overwhelming. There's 3 chapters, but I think each chapter is small in the amount we're covering and in the length of time it'll take to do the problems. Your 3 problems in chapter 13 are going to look at 3 different scenarios and decision making that must happen in a corporation or in a partnership, sole proprietorship. But as a manager, you're faced with decisions, one of which is, should I make this part in-house or buy it already made from a supplier? The stories are going to seem deceptively easy when you first read them, like, well, here it's obvious which I should do. But you're going to want to take the time to crunch the numbers, and I'm going to demonstrate. We're looking at exercise 37. It's on page 612. There's a whole box of information. It says the company currently makes this part. They make about 35,000 of them a year. And when they make them, they've broken down the cost. It costs them $6 in materials, $2 in labor, variable overhead of $1.50, fixed overhead of $3.50. So it costs them about $13 to make. Then if you go down into exercise 37 and read through all the junk, you finally get to the part that says an outside supplier has offered to sell the part to us for $11. $13 to make it, $11 to buy it. We should buy it. Yeah, remember what I said about jumping to conclusions. What we need to look at are what costs will we get rid of if we don't make the product anymore, and what will our costs be if we continue to make the product, and so on. If we buy the product, we're going to spend $11 each. And if we're going to make 35,000 of them, it's going to be a lot of money. So 11 times 35,000 products. It's going to cost $385,000. But if we make the product, we have all those costs. Direct materials, direct labor, variable overhead, fixed overhead. Problem is, I could list all these in, and it'd be $13 times 35,000. And it seems like we should spend the $11 and buy the product. The key part that we're missing is the fixed overhead. The problem included the fixed overhead on the $13. But if we buy the product, we not only have to spend the $11 to buy the product, but we still have to cover costs that would still be around. And exercise 37 says, of the total fixed costs, which is 77,000, 77,000 is direct fixed costs, the leasing of the production machinery and the salary of production line supervisor, neither of which will be needed if the line is dropped. So we get to get rid of $77,000 of fixed costs, but not all the fixed costs. Probably should look at what the fixed costs are. We said they're $3.50 for each product, and there are 35,000 products. So our fixed overhead is $122,000. We get to save 77 of it. that still leaves us $45,000 that we're going to have to spend even if we no longer make the product. Those costs we don't get to get rid of. So now when we compare them, buying is going to cost us $385,000 just to buy them. Still $45,000 of fixed costs that are going to hang around. And making them is going to cost $455,000. Still cheaper to buy them, but now we've looked at all the facts. So in your story problem, make sure that you notice what costs you will have to pay if you keep the product, or keep making the product, and what you will encounter if you buy the product. So take the time to read through them. It'll almost always be right here in fixed overhead. That not all the fixed overhead goes away just because you stop making the product. So watch those make your buy problems. And we have another type of problem called a special order problem. And the special order is a customer comes to you and says, I want to buy a bunch of your product, but I don't want to pay your normal price. We call that a special order. Should we go ahead and sell a whole bunch of our product to this customer at less than we normally sell it for? And the answer should be, as long as we can make a profit, yeah. And there's a bunch of other factors, but textbook land, accounting textbook land, particularly if the numbers crunch out right, then we say that they should accept the project. So let's look at a special order problem. Problem 1339. It tells the story of us making a light fixture. Costs us $8 to make the light fixture. You can see the details there. We normally make about 180,000 products each year, and we have the capacity to make 300,000. So taking on a special order, making a few more is not a problem. We've got the capacity. And the company also incurs fixed selling costs and variable selling costs, and the fixtures normally sell for $12 each. The customer comes to us and would like to offer to buy 100,000 fixtures, so a lot of fixtures, and they'll pay us $7 each for them. It sounds like way too low an amount. But let's take a look at it. We would bring in $700,000 if we accepted their offer. If we rejected it, we'd get no money. What will our costs be? Well, if we accept their order, we have to build or make more products. So we're going to encounter direct materials, and those were $2 a unit. 100,000 products, it cost us $200,000 in materials. Labor, $1 a unit. So we're going to spend $100,000 on labor. And again, we have to be careful. Variable overhead. $300,000 is the variable overhead. That's really all we need to be looking at. The fixed overhead will be here whether we reject the project or accept the project. So these are the costs that need to go into our decision making. We don't have to pay the sales commissions, so there won't be any variable selling expenses. That's what they call them, variable selling expenses. So when we look at each of these numbers here, 200,000, 300,000, 100,000, we're at 600,000 in costs to go along with $700,000 of revenue. We'd make $100,000 of profit. We'd make nothing if we rejected their order. Now the problem looks pretty simple. Take the special order. And your last type of problem is keep or drop. I want you to do the exact same type of analysis. What will happen if I keep? What will happen if I drop? Make sure you look at the costs that change between the two options. We call them the relevant costs. Let me know if you have any questions.